the moons of the gas giants. This is not one specific planet. Frankly, it's not at all a planet. These are moons. The gas giants are the planets Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. So, all these planets have far more moons than Earth or any other planet. And many of these moons are quite large since their parent planets are actually huge, and so they can support moons that are the size of Mercury and a bit less. So, one of the best candidates is Europa. It is covered with ice, but under that ice there could be liquid water, tons of it. Granted, it would be extremely cold, but feasibly animals and plants could adapt to survive in that sort of environment. And microbes almost certainly live there. We have no evidence yet, but it's pretty much possible for microorganisms to live there. And then we have things like Enceladus that has lakes and seas of other elements which could also provide a base for life to survive. And because of this, and other moons of the gas giants, they are a really good candidate for life. But the only problem is that these moons have a thick layer of ice kilometers deep at certain parts. So the thing is that we may never be able to drill down that deep, especially on an extraterrestrial area where we'd have to carry heavy drilling gear for millions and millions of kilometers so that we could drill holes in extremely deep and thick ice. So it might be impossible, but there's still the thought that there might be life here. Kepler 186f. This is the only exoplanet on our list. Exoplanets are planets outside our solar system. So these planets are very far away, hard to see, and quite difficult to study. But this one holds a lot of promise for life. Kepler 186f orbits a red dwarf, and it's about the same size as Earth, and it is about 1.4 Earth masses to be exact. And Earth mass is exactly the same size as Earth, so it's about 1.4 times the size of the Earth. And then its temperature is quite low, minus 85 degrees Celsius on average, but this is slightly warmer than the coldest temperatures of Antarctica. So technically it's feasible that life could survive there. And the thing about red dwarfs is that they tidally lock the planet. Most planets. That makes the red dwarfs kind of a tough candidate for life. But this planet is just far enough away to not be tidally locked. And in case you're wondering what tidal locking is, it's basically when one side of the planet is always facing the sun, or whatever star it is, and the other side is always facing away. Thus it gets extremely hot on one side and extremely cold on the other. But Kepler was far enough away to escape this. The only problem is that Kepler 186f is about 500 light years away from Earth. A light year is the amount of distance light travels in a year. To give you some context, light travels at about 3 million kilometers per second, and this is that times a year, and a light year times 500, so it's basically a huge distance. And it's unlikely that we'll ever reach it because it's just so far away and extremely hard to reach because of the gigantic distances. This also makes it incredibly hard to study. So, if we're really looking for life, it's unlikely that we're ever going to know whether life is here. But still, it's a candidate and our only exoplanet candidate on this list. There are other exoplanet candidates, mind you, but I've only picked a few candidates for this list. Next we have Kyber Belt objects. The Kyber Belt is a belt of asteroids and dwarf planets that surrounds the solar system. It contains mostly chunks of ice, or dirty ice as they call it, mixed in with the rock and many minerals, even sometimes rarely metals. And these ice particles might have water. They can be methane ice, carbon ice, all sorts of things like that. But it's also possible that there's some water ice there. But of course, the thing is that it's almost impossible for complex life to exist there. So the only life we're probably going to find there is some microbes, bacteria. And there's even a theory that life came to Earth from here. Some bacteria may have hitched a ride on one of these objects, and then one of the comets from here could have hit Earth, landing the first life on Earth. So it's up to you whether you so choose to believe that theory. You can dig deeper to find out for yourself. But isn't it interesting that one of the candidates for life might have actually brought life to Earth?